Hello, my most amazing artists. How are you today? I hope you are ready to create with me again. Last time we created some lovely little pumpkins and we used some overlapping shapes. This time we're going to be creating some gardens with concentric flowers in them, and it is inspired by the artist Vasily Kandinsky. I hope you've had a chance to watch the video that was on the slide before this one about Vasily Kandinsky and learn something new about a new artist today. He created some concentric circles in his artwork, and we're going to be focusing on that, but we're going to be making ours into a concentric circle garden. So we have some fun materials to work with. The elements of art that we're talking about today will be, first of all, shape again. This time, instead of just overlapping shape, these shapes are actually right on top of each other, or maybe inside of each other if you were to draw them. They're called concentric shapes. Concentric shapes are when you have two or more shapes on top of each other or inside of each other, and they share the same center point. So they're exactly one on top of the other, and they grow and get bigger, not just a little overlapping like on our pumpkin. Okay? We also will be talking about line, which we'll get into a little bit more later when we start adding the details to the background of our artwork. Let's talk materials. Materials are things that you can use for your lesson. You can use anything you can find around your house. I love to reuse things that we're not using anymore, like old scraps of fabric or magazines. You could use some paper from scrapbooking. You could use scraps from something else from construction paper, or if you don't have any of these items, you can use sticky notes. Sticky notes are colorful. I've even taken just a white piece of paper and I've colored solid sections of different colors, and then I can cut those out to be my concentric circles. As far as glue goes, it depends on what you're gluing. If you're just gluing paper, a glue stick is just fine. But if you're going to be using fabric or anything else that are a heavyweight paper, you may want to really think about using some liquid glue. It'll stick better, okay? Scissors, you'll need scissors. You can use markers to decorate later. Any kind of markers will do. Crayons. The background is what you're actually putting everything on. This is just a plain white sheet of paper. You could use any piece of construction paper color background. If you want to have a pink sky or pink background, go for it. I mean, sunsets have pink in them. You could use just any papers you might have around your house, like this, maybe from leftover from school, and you can just do it on the back of it. I've done that here with this lesson. You can see a little bit of the font here, and I did another pumpkin on there for my other classes. There's also good old-fashioned lined paper. I've done some art on good old-fashioned lined paper. Really, you've got something that you can do this lesson with, I guarantee you. Here we are ready to get started on our project. The first thing you're going to start with is whatever you chose to be your circle template, and then you need to decide what do you want to start with as far as your first circle goes. I'm going to use this piece of paper here, and I'm just going to trace out part of a circle. Okay, I'm going to hold it down with the center and go around the edges. If you've got someone around to help you hold it in place, that will help too. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to cut it out. Let's talk about cutting with our scissors. Okay, our scissors have a small hole and a larger hole. Our fingers, or our thumbs, go in the small hole, and our fingers go in the larger hole. When we're cutting, thumbs are up, thumbs down are bad. If you ever turn your hand over upside down like this, okay, that's not a good thing because it's really hard to control where those scissors are going. The thumbs up are always good, so think of thumbs up is good. You always want to keep your scissors going straight forward. It's tempting when we're going around a curve, especially a circle, to turn our scissors like that. But scissors can be scary. We do not want to point our scissors back at us. They always want to stay forward. So think about when your parents drive a car. As they're driving a car, can they be looking right and left and everywhere? No, they have to keep their eyes forward on the road. And the road is the line that we're cutting. So your scissors have to keep their eyes on the road and always forward. This hand is your steering hand, kind of like the steering wheel, and we use a steering wheel when we drive, the adults do. And these are our eyes and our steering wheel. Okay, and here's the road. So your scissors are going to drive around your circle, but look, I'm not going to be cutting like this. I'm going to be steering the paper with my hand. But I want to give you a tip. If I just go and start cutting this circle right out of the middle, it's going to be hard with all that extra paper in the way. So I know I'm only going to use part of this paper. I'm going to clip really wide around the edges of this shape just to give myself something that's easier to work with. I don't have paper flopping everywhere. I actually went back and drew a circle in Sharpie so you could see what I was doing here. I'm going to take my scissors, making sure my thumb is up. This is my driver. This is my steering wheel, or my hand that steers. I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut all the way to that road and keep the eyes on the road. As I cut, I'm going to open my scissors all the way and close. A lot of people are tempted to do little snips with the tip. We don't have much control there. You really need to control with the back side of the scissors here. So I'm going to slide my scissors in, and this hand's my steering hand. My scissors always stay forward like a driver, and they stay on the road, opening and cutting. And I'm not even closing my scissors all the way, because really you can steer much better with the back of your scissors. And keeping those eyes on the road. Notice I only have my steering wheel hand that's turning, and my other hand, or my scissors, are staying on the road. I am ready to cut out my first concentric circle. This is my first circle. The second one that goes around is the first concentric circle. Okay, I'm going to be using liquid glue. If you use liquid glue, you use just the tiniest little dot. You really don't want to make that paper wet, because if you've ever tried to cut wet paper, it doesn't cut. So I'm going to turn it over and make just a little dot. Once I've made that dot, without squeezing my bottle, I'm going to use the tip of my glue bottle to kind of move that glue around. And then I'm going to stick it down. I'm going to use one of these crayon spaces that I colored. Stick it down and make sure it's good and steady and it's not going to fall off, especially if you're using a glue stick. You want to make sure this sticks down really well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a general shape of that area. I want to go really big though, because I want to make sure I have enough room for my concentric circle. If your concentric circle ends up being really big, that's totally fine. The goal, we don't have a line to follow or a road to follow with this one. If you have troubles, you can try drawing a pencil line, but really it's great just to be able to follow next to it. Kind of like, imagine this is a car next to your scissor, okay, the driver, and you're driving right next to it. You don't want to run into the car, do you? Oh, and have a big old accident. That wouldn't be good. So I'm going to drive right next to it with plenty of space in between so I don't run into it. I'm going to open my scissors, thumbs up, thumb in the little hole. Then I'm going to cut into my paper, and I'm going to stay a little distance away, keeping my scissors forward, the eyes forward, and I'm not going to run into the circle in the middle. I'm going to try to keep it the same distance all the way around. Cutting slowly. I'm using the back part of my scissors where my scissors are really sharp and I have good control. And cut it out. There we go. We have our first concentric circle. They share the same center. Once again, I'm going to take just a little dot of glue. I'm going to stick it down. And actually, I'm going to move this close to the edge so I don't use this whole sheet of paper. I want to make probably my circles about that big, my circle about that big. Stick it down, make sure it sticks. And then I'm going to start cutting in. And remember, I want to try not to hit the car next to me or the circle next to me, keeping my scissors straight forward. We don't want the scissors coming back at us. The scissors are keeping their eyes on the road straight forward, and my steering hand is doing all the steering. One hand does the cutting, the other hand does the steering. Now I have my concentric circles cut out. I have 3 of them. You can do more, but I would like to see at least 2 flowers in your garden with at least 1 or 2 concentric circles going around. I'm ready to glue them down. I want to glue them up kind of high so I have room to make some stems and also room for grass at the bottom. And you can add other details to your background. If you're using liquid glue, I'm going to put a little bit more glue on it. This time if I just put glue in the middle, my shape can be floppy and I'm not cutting anymore. So I can make little dots of glue, itty bitty little dots, the less the better, around the edges. That way I know it's going to stay put when I put it down. I'll do that with this one too. Maybe you can see on this shape better. Little dots. I'm going to challenge myself. How small of a dot can I make of glue? The smaller the better. Look how small my dots are. Those aren't big at all. Put this one down a little bit lower. All right. This one, leave it off a little. Maybe I'll put this one up really high. It's a high growing flower. Make sure those are stuck. On my other one that you guys saw, I actually cut a piece of green paper out. You could do that, but for this one, I'm just going to draw the grass at the bottom. And I'm going to draw my lines going off. I want really bold lines, so I'm going to use the side of this marker. And I'm going to make my grass lines different heights as I go down. Oop, I'm getting some on the table. You know what? If you do that, you might want to grab another scrap piece of paper and just stick it under there where you're drawing. I'm going to draw some short ones and tall ones. Now, line can go all different directions. It can go vertical or horizontal. Vertical is when they go straight up and down. Horizontal is when they go side to side. They can go diagonal. So maybe I'll add some diagonal lines in there too in my grass. Probably not horizontal lines for my grass because grass doesn't grow horizontally. I'm not really coloring the whole thing in. I'm making it a little bit more interesting by adding lines rather than trying to fill in the whole shape. I'm going to add just a few more things. I'm going to take my yellow-orange color and I'm going to add a sun. I'm going to do a curlicue line or a spiral. A spiral starts in the middle and grows out. And maybe some little lines coming out from there. We are going to add some stems. Over here, I made some different lines. I did a curly line, a wavy line, a zigzag line. You can do any kind of line you'd like. I'm going to use the thin part. No, I'll use a thick part of my marker. And over here, I'm going to do a wavy line all the way down to my grass. And then here, maybe I'll do a zigzag line. And here, maybe I'll do a broken line. And we need some leaves. So maybe for my leaves, I could just draw a normal leaf, which I'm starting at a point up here and coming back to a point and drawing a little line in the middle. Or maybe I could make my line come out and be a curlicue. My leaf, I mean. Or maybe I can bring my leaf out and have it be a spiral. You can add lines however you like on yours and add details, maybe dots in between those lines. I like that. Okay, so I am done. Here are 2 examples of how you can do your concentric circles like Kandinsky, and I hope you had fun doing this lesson. I'll see you next time.